What ancient humans actually did when someone died. Intro: before coffins, before churches, before gravestones, people still died. And the people left behind had to figure out what to do with the body, with the grief, and with the question of what death even meant. What they did is one of the most revealing things we know about who we are. Section 1. The oldest evidence. The oldest confirmed burial is roughly 130,000 years old. Shanidar Cave, Iraq. Inside, a Neanderthal, not tossed aside but deliberately placed, curled up, positioned with care. If Neanderthals buried their dead, they understood that the body was different from the person, that the moment deserved a response. That is not simple. That is profoundly human. And Neanderthals were not even our species. Section 2. What early Homo Sapiens did at Skhul Cave in Israel 100,000 years ago. A Homo Sapiens was buried holding the jaw of a wild boar. At Qafzeh Cave nearby, a child was buried with deer antlers laid across the body. Someone chose those objects, placed them deliberately, then walked away. These are not the behaviors of creatures that simply leave their dead. These are creatures that had something to say about death, even when no words survive. Section 3. The variety of practices. Ancient humans did not all respond to death the same way. Some buried the dead in the ground. Others left bodies on elevated platforms for birds. Sky burial, still practiced in Tibet today. Others burned the dead, submerged them in water, or placed them in caves. Some groups secondary buried their dead, buried the body first, waited for decomposition, then dug up the bones and reburied the skeleton somewhere else. Sometimes those bones were painted red with ochre before reburial. At Ohalo 2 in Israel, 23,000 years ago, a body was found weighted down in a shallow grave. Whether to prevent the dead from rising or simply part of the ritual, someone had a framework for what death meant and what the body required. Section 4. The meaning of red ochre appears in burials on every inhabited continent across tens of thousands of years. Red as blood, red as protection, red as identity, red as a spiritual technology we no longer understand. At Lake Mungo in Australia, 40,000 years ago, a young man's remains were found burned, bones gathered and crushed, then reburied and dusted with red ochre, one of the oldest known cremations on Earth. 40,000 years ago, someone performed a complex multi-stage ritual for a dead young man. That is not primitive, that is devotion. Section 5. The afterlife question. When you bury someone with food, tools, weapons, or jewelry, you are implying they will need these things. You are implying continuation. Shells carried hundreds of miles inland to be placed in graves. Ivory figurines in Paleolithic burials across Europe. Bodies placed in the fetal position, as if ready to be reborn. We cannot know what ancient people believed, but we can see they believed something. Section 6. What burial did for the living death rituals bind communities. They give a group something to do when there is nothing to be done. They channel grief into action. In a band of 20 to 50 people, one death was catastrophic. The person who knew where the water was in summer. The grandmother who remembered the last famine. When they died, the grief was immediate, physical, total. The burial ritual gave the group a script for an experience that had no script. That is not superstition. That is social technology. And it may be one of the reasons humans survived. Section 7. Animals and what they don't do. Elephants return to the bones of their dead. Chimpanzees carry dead infants for weeks. Crows gather around their dead in what researchers call funeral-like assemblies. But no non-human species digs a grave, marks a location, places objects, or applies pigment to remains. The symbolic elaboration of death, the meaning-making, is uniquely human, and it is very old. Outro. What ancient humans did when someone died tells us what ancient humans were. They grieved, they gathered, they made meaning in the face of something they could not explain. They said, "This person was here, and their leaving matters." The red ochre became flowers. The fetal position became a casket. The elevated platform became a funeral pyre. But the refusal to simply walk away, that has not changed. And we still don't. If this made you see our ancestors differently, share it. Subscribe for more on the archaeology and anthropology of early human life.